My husband posted a public status on Facebook. We should take a month apart so I can have some personal space. Serena, his old close friend, dropped a bright red heart underneath. Calmly, I typed a comment. Got it. I'll respect that. And I'll also stop covering the $3,200 mortgage, your $5,000 car payment, and the $890 health insurance for Mila. That night, my phone rang nonstop with panicked calls. Do you know that feeling when the ground suddenly vanishes from beneath your feet? I was standing in the kitchen, stirring a pot of boiling caramel flan, the scorched sweet smell of burnt sugar clinging to condensed milk. The dessert Mila, my adopted daughter, loves. The warm steam carried the scent of happier afternoons. My phone buzzed gently on the granite counter. I wiped my hands on a stained white apron, speckled with caramel from hundreds of baking sessions, then picked it up. My heart stayed calm. Maybe Evan was texting weekend plans, or Mila's teacher had sent a new drawing. But when I read the message on the screen, I felt everything collapse. I think it's best if we take some space right now. I'm tired of being controlled. I need a little room. He didn't tag me directly, just a few short words, enough to erase 6 years of marriage, silent sacrifices, and everything I gave this family. I reread it 3 times, hoping the words might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. But no. But no. That was Evan, the man I married 6 years ago, the one I had placed all my trust and hopes in, telling me I should disappear from his life. Right underneath was Serena's blue thumbs up, a casual like it was some funny video or a random article. I turned off the stove. The flan had stopped boiling, but inside me, everything was still burning. 15 minutes, then 30, then an hour. But silence. His mother, his sister, his whole family. Not a single word. No one stood up for me. No one asked why. Evan, can you even explain? I sat down on the black wooden chair I had brought back from my mother's house after she passed, and the phone slipped into my lap. How did it come to this? I had worked day and night to help him, never took a break, just to build a future for this family. I turned down every other opportunity in life to focus on him and Mila. After we got married, when I had just lost our first child to miscarriage, without warning, one afternoon he brought home a little girl and told me she was our adopted daughter. I was shocked by his deception, but still chose to forgive him and raised her as my own. We both believed a new family might heal our wounds. I took a deep breath. The scent of caramel flan still lingered, now making me nauseous. I remembered all the times I bit my tongue to avoid being called controlling. The forced smiles under Serena's coldness. The times I pretended not to notice I'd been excluded from conversations. I picked up my phone. My hands trembled not from weakness, but from a cold fury I'd never known. I typed each word like a blade. Got it, Evan. I respect your request. And I'll also stop paying the $3,200 monthly mortgage, the $5,000 car transfer, and the $890 health insurance for Mila. I hope you find the space you're looking for. Love, Ashley. I hit send, then tossed the phone onto the sofa, a CT2. No one wakes up one morning and suddenly gets treated badly. It happens slowly, quietly, like rust eating away at metal bit by bit, until you realize it's too late. It all started a year ago, on a March afternoon. I was sitting in the living room, stitching up the torn seam of an old handbag, when Evan walked in, his voice full of excitement. I want to invite a friend over for dinner, an old friend who just came back to the country. Serena. I smiled, thinking it was just a casual friend, but there was something in his eyes that made my heart pause for a second. Serena showed up a few days later, beautiful, with long straight hair, neatly dressed, her nails perfectly done in glossy gel. She hugged me, smiling gently. I've heard so much about you from Evan. Her voice was soft, sweet, but distant. At first, everything seemed normal. A few dinners, a few coffee chats, polite conversations, until I began noticing the small signs. On Evan's birthday, I baked a chocolate caramel cake, his favorite since we first got married. Serena smiled slightly. The cake looks lovely, but we should try to eat healthier. Evan's been hitting the gym. Then she gently pushed the cake aside, as if it were something outdated. Evan said nothing, didn't defend me, just gave an awkward smile. After that, she began showing up more often, coming over on weekends, teaching Mila how to paint, how to arrange flowers, sometimes even taking her to sleep over at her place. I saw the way Serena looked at Evan, and the way he looked back, painfully familiar. That familiarity quickly turned into habit. Serena came to our house every weekend, became close to Mila, and soon, I was subtly pushed out. The small talks no longer included me. The dinners filled only with their laughter. I became an outsider in the very home I built. Evan would always say, "You're being too sensitive. Serena's just helping." Then he quit his job and started a business with Serena, and the money requests began. Small ones at first. $800 for an online course to improve his skills. 2 weeks later, my car broke down. The repair cost $3,200. I paid without hesitation, telling myself my husband needs me. That's what a wife does, even though our finances were separate. Then came a small investment for the new business idea, and I agreed again. When Evan talked about the dream house, 3 bedrooms, a garden in a safe neighborhood, he said, "We just need a $95,000 down payment. I'll handle the rest." That was nearly all my savings, the money from the small piece of land my parents left me. But he showed me figures, documents proving his company was stable and profitable, that he was trying to build a better life for us. I sold the land, believing I was investing in our future. But months later, the one paying the $3,200 monthly mortgage was me. One night at dinner, Evan held my hand, looking worried. "Babe, one of the contracts is in trouble. Serena and I are trying our best. Can you help just for a few months?" I knew it wouldn't be just a few months. But I convinced myself I had to trust my husband, so I agreed to pay, transferring money every month. $2,000, then $3,500, then $5,000. Always with the promise that it was only until things got better. I tightened my budget, canceled my own insurance, stopped buying clothes, bought cheaper groceries. I thought if I just tried a little harder, things would get better, but I was wrong. The more I gave, the more I lost. My trust, my place, and finally, my self-respect. Little by little, I stopped being a wife and became an ATM, a CT3. After moving into the new house, I thought things would get better. A big yard, a separate room for Mila, space for our little family. But Serena immediately rented the house next door, becoming our new neighbor. Mila was familiar with her, sometimes asking to sleep over because Serena's house is more fun. Until that evening, the dinner that changed everything. But to help you understand, I have to take you back 2 weeks before it all collapsed. Evan called me one Tuesday afternoon, his voice unusually sweet and gentle. "Ashley, I'm coming home for dinner this Saturday." It's been a while since we had a proper date. I was surprised, but a flicker of naive hope lit up inside me. Maybe things were getting better. Maybe I had been overthinking, even though it had been more than a month since Evan last came home. All I'd gotten were rushed phone calls, all about money. "Can you make the transfer on time?" And polite excuses. "I'm traveling for work. Mila's sick. Please take care of her. I'll try to come home soon." So even a small dinner invitation made me want to believe that the distance was only temporary. I spent the whole week preparing. I went to the salon, spent $70 on a haircut and manicure, outside my budget, but I wanted to look presentable. I picked the turquoise silk dress. Evan once said I looked best in that color. I bought a bottle of red wine and made a box of caramel flan from scratch, the dessert tied to so many family memories. I still remember the first time I made it, during our first year of marriage, when Mila had just come home. She cried nonstop, and I promised her I'd make the sweetest, softest dessert in the world if she stopped crying. She smiled and said the flavor made her believe in happiness. That smile, that hug, helped ease the pain of losing my own child. From then on, whenever our family hit a rough patch, I made caramel flan as a way to hold on to warmth. That night, I set the flower vase on the table, looked at the wine bottle, then the clock. He should be home soon. I walked next door to get Mila from Serena's place. I wanted that evening to be a reunion, just a simple meal shared by people who loved each other. But when I got there, the house next door was lit up, and through the glass window, I saw Evan sitting with Serena and Mila, laughing around the dinner table. On the table was a fancy meal: roast meat, salad, and a bottle of red wine identical to the one I just bought. I stood there, like a ghost, unsure whether to walk in and break the warmth of that scene or quietly go back home. Serena saw me. She was still in joggers, a loose tee, hair in a messy bun. "Hi, Ashley. Come join us," she said, like a host welcoming a guest into her home. I stepped into the living room and felt completely out of place. Mila ran to me when she saw me. "Mommy!" My heart melted. At least someone was happy to see me. "Mila, come here. Let your mom sit," Serena said evenly. Evan kept his head down, eyes on his plate, didn't look at me, didn't explain, didn't apologize. I tried to keep my voice steady. "You didn't tell me you'd be eating here." He kept his head low, but calmly replied, "Serena invited me." "It's just a simple dinner. You should go home. Oh, did you make this month's transfer yet?" I stood frozen. Everything inside me went cold. That question, with no explanation, no eye contact, was a dry, sharp blade cutting off what was left of our marriage. In that moment, I knew this dinner wasn't a gesture of reconciliation. It was confirmation that I was now a complete outsider in my own family. The air felt heavy like lead. Then Serena started, "Ashley, I just watched a documentary about modern marriages." She smirked, glancing at Evan like sharing an inside joke. He looked up at her, smiled back, then looked away. "It's true, the world has changed," he said. "Exactly," she continued, slicing a piece of steak with the silver knife. "Some wives don't know how to let go. They're emotionally dependent, thinking their husbands should report every detail, be present at all times." My stomach tightened. She didn't say my name, but she was talking about me. "It's suffocating," Serena said, looking straight into my eyes. "Every couple needs their own space. No one wants someone interfering all the time." I swallowed hard. I never tried to interfere. "Not talking about you specifically, Ashley," she added with a fake smile. But every word stabbed me. Evan said nothing. I tried to stay calm, eyes on the man I had been married to for 6 years. I turned and walked toward the door. No one stopped me. "Wait, hey," Evan said. As I reached the door, my heart ached with hope he might hug me or apologize for this awful night. "Did you transfer the money this month? The mortgage is due tomorrow money?" That's all this was about. Money. "I've been transferring it until today," I said, something breaking inside my chest. "Oh, good. Thanks, I'll be home after I finish this meeting." I walked out the door without crying, just stood still, staring at the house glowing with light, wondering when my marriage had truly fallen apart. Back home, I opened the bottle of wine and poured myself a glass. I looked at the food and desserts on the table, cut into all the plates, and ate standing there in the silent kitchen. But the cake wasn't sweet anymore, the steak tasted flat. Maybe I'd forgotten to add salt, and the wine was dull. Because I finally understood. No matter how much love or effort you give, without respect, this family no longer means anything. Still, I wanted clarity. A real conversation, face to face between husband and wife. I threw all the food into the trash and cleaned the kitchen. The clock showed 9 p.m. Mila wasn't asleep yet. I brought a small gift for her, a doll I'd carefully chosen, wearing a blue polka dot dress. I didn't want to argue in front of her. I only meant to give her the gift and tell Serena that Mila could stay the night at her place. But when I arrived, the door was unlocked. I heard voices coming from the kitchen. Serena's voice was clear. I honestly can't stand her anymore. She interferes with everything. She's always around, always acting like she's everyone's mother. I froze. She was talking about me. Evan's voice was low, weak. Come on, Serena. Be patient. Give me some time. She laughed bitterly. Be patient. How long? Then his voice, soft, soothing. Just wait until the company stabilizes. I don't want you to be overworked. I peeked through the small crack in the door and saw my husband. Yes, my husband, wrapping his arms around Serena, then kissing her, hurried, hungry. My chest tightened. I clenched the doll box in my hand so tightly it crinkled. Serena seemed calmer now, pushed him away slightly, then warned. Fine. I'll wait. But I want you to keep your distance from her. I swear, if this continues, I'm gone. A heavy silence followed. I'll talk to her, Evan finally said. Talk how? So she doesn't suspect anything? Serena gave a dry laugh. I know she's the one paying. She's not stupid. But that doesn't mean she gets to control our lives. She's the obstacle, Evan. The thing standing between us. That sentence hit me. Dry, sharp, final, like a blade pressed straight into my chest. But he didn't argue. Just silence. Silence. As agreement. I stepped back, heart pounding, feeling like the world was collapsing inward around me. I walked away quietly, carrying the unopened doll and a humiliation too deep for words. That night, I sat in my kitchen, staring at the doll resting on the table, the warm yellow light falling across its plastic eyes that seemed to stare back at me. Only emptiness remained, dense, suffocating, spreading slowly through my chest. A CT5. Evan and our daughter didn't come home. For 3 days, I took leave from work. I stayed in the apartment, barely eating or sleeping, replaying every word I'd heard. She's the obstacle. The thing keeping us apart. The first day, I only cried. Cried until I had no tears left, until my throat burned, and my eyes were so swollen I couldn't open them. I ignored every call from Clara, every message from my friends, the entire world. On the second day, the tears dried up and were replaced by anger. A quiet kind of anger, like embers glowing under ash. I paced the living room, whispering to myself, replaying every insult, every moment I had swallowed my pride and pretended nothing was wrong. The doll I bought for Mila still sat on the table. I almost threw it in the trash, but stopped, because the fault wasn't with a 6-year-old child, but with the adults, with the husband who betrayed me. On the third morning, I woke before sunrise. I hadn't slept, but my mind was crystal clear. I walked into the bathroom and looked straight into the mirror. What I saw startled me. A 32-year-old woman stared back, dark circles under her eyes, hair tangled, shoulders slumped. But it wasn't the appearance that scared me. It was the expression, resignation, defeat. And then I didn't just see myself. I saw my mother, Evelyn. My mother, who raised 5 children alone on a farm after my father left for another woman. She worked until her hands cracked from labor. The day before she died, she told me, Ashley, don't let anyone make you feel small. You are the backbone of your own life, and a backbone either breaks or stands tall. You decide. I repeated it in my head, like a curse. I'm not an ATM anymore. Water dripped from the faucet, drop by drop. I looked into the mirror and chose to stand tall. I left the bathroom, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my old laptop. I turned it on, my hands trembling not from weakness, but from determination. I logged into my online bank account, printed every transfer receipt, every bill, every mortgage payment. I sorted them by date, slipping each sheet into a clear plastic folder like building a legal case. March 2022, $3,200 mortgage, plus $2,000 extra support. Total $5,200. April, $3,200 mortgage, plus $2,500. total $5,700. May, $3,200 plus $3,000, total $6,200. I added them month by month, year by year. The numbers grew from $5,000 a month to $8,000, sometimes $9,000 when emergencies came up. Office A, C repair, car repair, Mila's school fees. When I finished, my stomach twisted. $267,000 in 3 years, not counting the $95,000 house deposit. Then I opened the drawer, searching for the house papers. I read every line carefully. Owner, Evan Carter. My name, nowhere, not as co-owner, not as guarantor. On paper, I didn't exist. But in conscience, I knew justice was on my side. I changed all the locks, then called Nolan, the lawyer and old friend I grew up with. He once told me, if you ever need me, just call. And today, I truly needed him. That afternoon, I went to his office and handed him the green folder, 42 pages of bank statements and a copy of the house deed. Nolan read through each page silently for a long time, then said, Ashley, marital assets are easy to divide in divorce, but money, that's different. Legally, you have 2 options. Either treat it as a gift, meaning you can't reclaim it, or sue on the grounds that these were unpaid loans. I said, I don't have a contract. He smiled. I know, but you have proof of transfers. More importantly, do you have any messages or emails showing they acknowledged this as a loan? That's evidence. I opened my phone, scrolling through texts. Honey, owe you this time. We'll pay you back when things are stable. Thanks for helping. We'll return it soon. Those words, will return, appeared at least 10 times. I looked at Nolan. He read each message, nodding slowly, then gave a small smile. Ashley, this wasn't a gift. These were loans. And loans must be repaid. That sentence cut through the chaos in my chest like a clean blade. Over the next 2 hours, we reviewed all the documents, organizing each bank transfer and every message containing loan, will pay, and return later. Nolan said plainly, you can sue, but the process will be long and exhausting. Or simpler, just stop everything. There's no contract binding you to keep paying, and later we'll reclaim it. The house is in their names, not yours. If you stop, what can they do? I was quiet for a few seconds, then said, nothing. He nodded. At worst, they might accuse you of breaking a promise, but with these messages, they're the ones who didn't keep theirs. For the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. I left Nolan's office at dusk, the last light of day glinting off the green folder in my hand. I no longer felt guilty. I wasn't the obstacle. I was finally living for myself. And when a husband betrays his wife, she has the right to withdraw her support. In the following days, I reorganized everything in the house, photographed each piece of evidence, backed up messages, reprinted emails, numbered them in order, like setting a chessboard before the final move. I hired a locksmith to replace every lock in the new house. I knew I was about to act, but before striking, I had to wait. I knew Serena wouldn't stay quiet, and Evan, weak as always, would follow her lead. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon. The next day, while I was cooking, my hands busy but my mind calm, my phone buzzed. A notification from Evan's social media account. And from that moment, everything began to change. The phone lay on the table. When it buzzed, I didn't rush to check it. Probably another ad, or maybe Clara sending me another cooking video. But it buzzed again. Then a third time. I picked it up and my heart stopped. It was a notification from Evan's post. We should take a month apart so I can have some personal space. Right below it, Serena had dropped a heart emoji. No explanation, no private message, just a few cold, hollow public words. I read it 3 times. The first, shock. The second, pain. The third, absolute clarity. Because finally, he showed me who he really was. I set the phone down, poured a glass of water, and drank slowly. The late afternoon sky was crisp, soft sunlight, the kind of weather that tricks you into thinking the world is fine. But it wasn't. Everything had been broken for a long time. Even when I changed the house locks 4 days ago, he hadn't noticed. The flame on the stove was boiling furiously, like my heart cracking open. Steam rose, burning hot, fogging my glasses. My hands trembled, not from weakness, but from a cold, sharp rage. I sat down, opened my phone, and typed each word. Clear, slow. Understood. I'll respect that. And I'll also stop the $3,200 per month mortgage, the $5,000 car payments, and the $890 health insurance for Mila. I hope you find the distance you need. I reread it 3 times, adjusted every period, then hit send. 2 blue ticks appeared. I turned on silent mode, flipped the phone face down, and poured out the ruined batch of flan. For the first time in a year, my hands didn't shake, and neither did my heart. I sat still, no TV, no music. Just let the quiet spread across the room. 15 minutes, then 30, then 60. At 7 p.m., I made a simple dinner. Sunny-side-up eggs with tomatoes. I ate slowly, chewing each bite, tasting freedom for the first time in years. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt light and real. After dinner, I took a long, warm shower. When I stepped out, I used the lavender lotion I'd always saved for special occasions. Then I slipped into my favorite silk pajamas, the expensive ones I bought after leaving the lawyer's office. By the time I returned to the living room, it was nearly 11 p.m. My phone on the table buzzed nonstop, screen flashing on and off like an erratic heartbeat. I picked it up. 47 missed calls. 23 from Evan, the rest from unknown numbers. Probably burner phones trying to get through. Messages kept flooding in. Please don't do this. It's just a misunderstanding. We need to talk. I didn't mean it like that. I can't cover the payments if you stop. I read every line, every word. And I realized he wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing my money. I heard a knock at the door. I didn't answer. I sat down in my chair and read the messages again, slowly, like tasting a familiar bitterness. Bitter, but strangely, there was a trace of sweetness too, because for the first time, he had to face consequences. Not because I was angry, but because I'd stopped saving him. I folded the phone shut, took a piece of paper from the drawer, and wrote with blue ink. As requested, I'll keep my distance, quote. Please respect this decision as I have respected yours. Don't call. Don't come. If or when I'm ready, I'll reach out. I signed it, Ashley. Then folded the note and placed it into my purse. I knew they would come, and I was ready. The next morning, around 6:30, the doorbell rang nonstop for over 20 minutes. I sat in the kitchen, eating toast with butter, sipping coffee, listening to the sound echo through the apartment. For the first time in years, I smiled. If someone demands space, they should also learn to live in it. The bell rang for the 17th time. Yes, I counted. I sipped my coffee, chewed slowly, listening to Evan's voice filtering in through the gap in the door. Honey, I know you're in there. Please open up, then Serena's voice, trying to sound calm. Ashley, are you okay? We just want to make sure you're safe. Please don't make everyone worry. I set the cup down and took a deep breath. Don't make everyone worry. The irony of that, when they were the ones who caused all of this, now speaking as if they were the victims. I picked up the note I had written, walked out the back door leading to the hallway that looped around to the front entrance, and gently slid the paper under the door. Silence fell immediately on the other side. I knew they'd seen it. I turned around and went back to bed. The bell kept ringing for a few more minutes, then stopped completely. I heard them arguing, Serena's voice rising, Evan's growing smaller, and then nothing. A lightness settled in my chest. That afternoon, my phone buzzed. A text from Evan. I read the note, but we need to talk. The mortgage is due Monday. We'll be penalized if it's late. I didn't reply. Saturday morning, Clara showed up. No warning. Just rang the bell and shouted, "Ashley, open up, it's me." I recognized her voice instantly. Clara never dances around things. She walked in with her hair in a bun, carrying a bag of warm cheese pastries. "I brought good coffee." "Sit. Tell me everything." We sat at the small table. I told her everything. The dinner that changed it all, the social media post, the messages, the note, the year of quiet endurance since Serena arrived. How Evan changed, how our adopted daughter changed. Clara listened in complete silence, chewing slowly, never taking her eyes off me. When I finished, she wiped her mouth and said simply, "You did the right thing." My throat tightened. I realized I'd been waiting to hear those words for a long time. "Really?" I asked. Clara nodded. "I've watched you fade little by little, not just this past year, but year after year, giving up more and more of yourself for scraps of affection from a man you used to believe in. I stayed quiet because I thought it was your choice, but I should have shaken you awake much sooner." I whispered, "They're panicking now." Clara shrugged, tearing off another piece of pastry. "Let them panic. Now he has to face the cost of betrayal, pay his own bills, carry his own weight. That's the best thing you can do right now." I sighed. I still feel awful, even though I know it's right. Clara looked at me, firm and gentle all at once. "There's no comfort at the beginning. But one day you'll realize just how strong you are." That whole morning, we watched a terrible movie, laughed out loud at the ridiculous scenes, ate candy straight from the bag like two kids. I hadn't felt this light in ages. Before she left, Clara hugged me tight, whispered in my ear, "Don't go back, Ashley." "Promise me," I whispered back, "I won't." But deep down, I knew. My heart was still bleeding, even if my mind had finally found peace. That night, they tried again. This time, using Mila. I heard her voice through the intercom. "Mommy, it's me. Daddy says you're sad. I drew a picture for you, my heart broke." I pressed the talk button. "Hi, sweetie. Mommy's just tired today, but I'm happy you drew something. Tell Daddy to bring it another day, okay?" "Are you sick, Mommy?" she asked, worried. I closed my eyes and whispered, "No, just a little tired." I love you too, Mommy." I let go of the button and slid down to the floor, tears falling. Some decisions are right but still feel wrong, and staying away from your own daughter, even when she's done nothing wrong, is one of them. But I couldn't give in. Not now. Not after coming this far. By Monday, the mortgage payment was due. That evening, Evan sent a long message. "Ashley, the payment's late." I tried getting a loan from the bank, but was denied. "Mila keeps asking about you. She wants to come home, and I don't know what to tell her. I know I hurt you, I messed up. But don't let us lose the house. Don't do this just because of one stupid post I made when I wasn't thinking." I stared at the screen and typed slowly. "It wasn't a lapse in judgment, Evan. It was dignity. You asked for space. I gave it. Your mistress called me an obstacle. I heard it all, and I saw everything. Let's get divorced." I hit send and turned off my phone. That night, I cried again. But this time, they were tears of farewell. A goodbye to the woman who once begged for love, who bowed her head and tried to hold everything together. That woman no longer lives off scraps of affection. A week passed, 7 days of silence, phone mostly off, sleepless nights, wondering if I'd done the right thing. 3 days later, Clara showed up, her face tense. "Ashley, sit down. There's something you need to know." She rubbed her face, tired. "Please sit." We sat on the sofa. I held my breath. "I hired a private investigator. Serena and Evan. They're not just old friends," she said. "They're exes." I froze. "And Mila? She's not Evan's adopted daughter." "She's their biological child." I went numb, hearing the blood rush in my ears. Clara explained. The whole 1-month break was a cover. After that dinner, they went on a trip together. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. All the gaps, unanswered calls, hidden bills, Evan's 3-day disappearance suddenly clicked together into one complete picture. Clara pulled out her phone and showed me Serena's Instagram. Fancy dinners, designer bags, beach resorts. All posted during the same time they claimed they were financially struggling, she said. I scrolled through each photo. Expensive sushi, $1,000 leather handbags, them hugging and smiling, all paid for with my money. And the worst part, Clara added, Evan, your husband, planned the whole thing. I stood up, walked to the window, took a deep breath. No more rage, just emptiness. What are you going to do? Clara asked. I answered calmly, nothing. They dug their own hole. Let them climb out of it. 2 months passed in total silence. 60 days, no contact, no messages, even though we lived next door to each other. In the first week, they managed to postpone the mortgage. By the second week, their cable and gym memberships were cut. By week 3, the bank denied another loan. Credit cards frozen. They began fighting. As for me, I just sat quietly, drinking tea, watching the sunset through my window. In the 8th week, the bank issued a notice to repossess the car. A warning followed. One more missed payment, and the house would be next. That afternoon, Evan came, knocking nonstop, his voice hoarse. Ashley, I'm begging you, please let me talk. I stood behind the door, silent. He knocked a few more times, then nothing. I looked through the peephole. He was slumped on the doorstep, head in hands. But the door stayed shut. Because some doors, once locked by pain, no key can ever open again. The divorce hearing took place on a cold morning, the white glare of fluorescent lights casting down on the long wooden table where Evan sat, head bowed, gripping his pen like it was the last thing he could hold on to as everything else slipped away. I sat across from him, no makeup, just a touch of pale lipstick and my hair neatly tied back. On the table lay a thick stack of documents bound with a blue string, the evidence of years of being used, silenced, and endured. My lawyer opened each page, his voice steady. The transfers were clearly labeled as loans, not gifts. Every piece of evidence is time-stamped, with messages confirming repayment. The words echoed through the quiet room, each one a cold blade slicing through the wall of lies Evan had built. He didn't argue. He just sat there, eyes vacant. When the judge read the ruling, his voice was slow and firm. The divorce is finalized. The court acknowledges these were loans, with proof of intent to repay. The old house, the one where we once painted the walls seafoam green, would be split, 50-50. The new house, the one with the yard and the room Mila once ran through, belonged to me because I had paid the full down payment and covered all monthly costs. Evan was ordered to repay the loans in full within 24 months. When I signed the final page, I heard the dry scrape of pen on paper, but inside, it sounded like freedom. Evan collapsed into his seat, covering his face with both hands. Outside in the hallway, his sobs blended with the sound of rain. The first time I ever heard him cry, and the last time I would care. Serena wasn't there. Clara told me Serena had said she couldn't take this miserable life anymore, blamed everything on Evan, said he was the one who ruined it all. She left the city, went back to her ex-husband, leaving Evan alone in debt and an empty house. He looked thinner, his suit disheveled, eyes sunken. As we left the courtroom, he looked at me, eyes red and wet. Ashley, I'm sorry. I didn't stop. I just said softly, sorry won't pay for the years I lost, Evan. Then I walked out of the courthouse, the cold sunlight hitting my face. I took a deep breath and lifted my head. In the distance, the city was still bustling. Strangers still passed by. And I knew the chapter had closed, not with tears, but with justice. 3 months after the ruling, on a Saturday night, my phone buzzed gently. A voice message from an unknown number. Mila's tiny voice, shaky and timid. Mommy, do you still love me? I don't want to stay with Grandma and Grandpa. Her voice trembled, her sobs small and sharp like needles straight to my heart. I already knew the truth, but I still couldn't bring myself to resent her. Through mutual contacts, I'd heard Serena had left, without taking Mila, and Evan was drowning in debt. Mila had been sent to live with Evan's parents. What about Evan? I asked. My friend sighed. He's fallen apart. Neighbors say he barely leaves the house. Depressed? That night, I replayed Mila's message over and over. Every word hit a bruised spot deep inside. I called Evan. Tomorrow, 7 p.m., at my house. I hung up, cleared the table, pulled the curtain shut, scrubbed away every trace of the past, opened the window, and let the cold wind flood in. At 6:59 the next day, the doorbell rang. Evan stood at the door, shirt wrinkled, eyes red, the smell of cigarettes clinging to his cuffs. I stepped aside and motioned to the chair across from me. Sit. Speak. He stayed quiet for a long time, like he was trying to find space for a confession in a room that had no room left for lies. I cheated, Evan said, voice rough. I'm sorry. I was wrong from the beginning. I let a moment of emotion override responsibility. I didn't nod, didn't shake my head, just rested a fingertip on the rim of my tea glass, feeling the warmth fade. Sorry, I said slowly, doesn't erase $267,000, and it doesn't erase the betrayal and the wounds you left in me. Evan clenched his hands, nails digging pale marks into his skin. I know, he exhaled. I just don't know where to begin to fix it. I looked him straight in the eye. Start by fulfilling your duty as a father. He lowered his head. I have no excuse left. Serena's gone. I don't have a job. The bank's chasing me. I pulled the file closer, opened the binder, and flipped to the bold printed summary page. This is the new agreement, I said, placing a black pen at the corner. Total, $267,000. Pay it off in 5 years. If not paid on time, your share of the old house goes back to me. For now, you can move back there. Evan swallowed hard, slowly pulled the paper toward him, reading each line, lips moving like he was relearning a forgotten language. Responsibility. I agree, he said, still not raising his eyes. I'll sell the car. I'll take a night shift. No need for promises, I cut in, gently but firmly. Just pay on time. And don't use Mila as leverage. She's not a hostage in the negotiation between adults. He nodded slowly. I understand. Evan stood, gripping the back of the chair like he needed it to stand upright. Ashley, thank you for still giving me a place to begin again. I looked down at the worn wood table, its corners darkened and scratched, and said softly, I'm not saving you. I'm helping Mila. She deserves better. He bowed his head, clutching the contract, shoulders trembling. When the door closed behind him, the room returned to its silence. I switched off the recorder, took a sip of my now cold tea, tasting a faint bitterness on my tongue. A clean kind of bitter, like air after rain. In the next room, the cardboard box holding Mila's blue dress doll sat quietly on the shelf. I placed a hand on its lid and whispered in my mind, I still love you, baby. But in my own way. Evan sold his old car, the one he used to call the last thing I'm proud of, and brought me the first envelope, $60,000. He handed it to me in person, with a nod and a quiet promise. I'll pay the rest monthly, on time. Since then, $2,500 have arrived steadily every month, sometimes a day or two late, but never missing. He moved into our old apartment, and after 3 months, he even started paying half the rent. Every weekend, Mila comes over, running barefoot across the wooden floor, calling, Mommy, is the flan ready yet? Evan stands at the door, holding a bag of old toys, his voice soft. Thank you for giving me a chance to be a real father. I nod. No hugs, no bitterness. Just open the door wide enough for her to step through, maintaining a quiet line like the frame around a new painting of our lives. My own life, from that point on, returned to normal, or more accurately, returned to me. I repainted the small apartment a soft beige, planted a few lavender pots by the window, and every morning I brewed coffee just for myself. No rush, no one waiting. Outside of work, I started joining a painting class on weekends, sometimes going for walks with a new friend. He's an architect, gentle and quiet, more interested in listening to my stories than asking questions. I wouldn't call it love, just a gentle warmth, enough to remind me I still knew how to smile. I still see Evan, but only for matters related to Mila. Brief conversations, polite enough, distant enough, just enough for me to know he's learning to respect me and himself. On the last afternoon of June, I sat on the porch, watching sunlight pour through the trees, the breeze carrying a soft scent of eucalyptus. The house was still, no frantic knocking, no pleading texts, no blame. Just me, steady breath, and a feeling so light it almost felt transparent. That's when I realized freedom isn't loud. It only knocks once you stop trying to prove your worth to anyone else. And maybe, if I had to say one sentence to close it all, it would be this: unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance for disrespect. If you've been through the kind of hurt I have, share this story so that someone out there knows sometimes the bravest thing we can do is choose ourselves.